After waiting 14 months for my husband to come home, I stood at the airport holding flowers and imagining the moment we would finally reunite. Then I saw him. But before he noticed me, another woman ran toward him. She wrapped her arms around him and whispered, "Julian, you're finally back." My heart stopped. I had crossed the airport just to surprise my husband, but instead, I discovered a secret I was never supposed to see. The strangest part? I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I smiled, turned around, and walked away. And that was the moment his life changed forever. My name is Hannah Parker, and I was 28 years old when I learned that sometimes the person you spend the longest time waiting for is the person you never truly knew. Before that day at the airport, I believed I had the kind of marriage people dreamed about. Julian and I had been married for 5 years. When we first met, he was the kind of man who made me feel like I was the only person in the room. He remembered small details, made me laugh when I was stressed, and always talked about building a future together. We weren't perfect, but I believed we were strong. Then Julian received an assignment that would take him overseas for 14 months. I still remember the night he told me. He held my hands and promised, "When I come back, everything will be different. We'll finally have the time we've been waiting for." I believed him. Those 14 months became a countdown. I marked every month on the calendar. I kept our home exactly how he liked it. I saved money for the vacation we always talked about taking. I even kept a list of all the things we would do when he returned. During those long months apart, we stayed connected through calls and messages. Some nights, we talked for hours. Other nights, he was too tired, and I simply stayed on the phone listening to him breathe. I never complained. I knew he was working hard. I knew he missed me. At least, I thought I did. When Julian finally told me his return date, I couldn't stop smiling. I planned a surprise at the airport. I bought his favorite flowers, wore the dress he once told me looked beautiful on me, and arrived early because I didn't want to miss the moment I had dreamed about for 14 months. Standing there with flowers in my hands, I truly believed I was about to get my happy ending. I had no idea that the hardest moment of my life was only minutes away. I remember looking at the airport screen and seeing his flight had landed. My heart started racing. After 14 months of waiting, the moment I had imagined hundreds of times was finally happening. I stood near the arrivals gate, holding the flowers tightly in my hands, watching every person walk through the doors. Then I saw him. Julian. He looked different. Maybe it was because I hadn't seen him in so long, or maybe it was because I was overwhelmed with emotion, but for a second, I forgot everything else. I smiled. I took a step forward, ready to surprise him. I imagined him laughing, pulling me into his arms, and telling me how much he missed me. But before I could reach him, someone else ran toward him. A woman. She moved quickly through the crowd like she had been waiting just as long as I had. Then she wrapped her arms around him. My feet stopped moving. I watched as she held him tightly and said the words that made the entire airport disappear around me. "Julian, you're finally back." I felt my grip tighten around the flowers. Julian didn't look confused. He didn't step away. He simply smiled and hugged her back. That was the moment something inside me changed. Because this wasn't the reaction of someone meeting a stranger. This was someone he knew. Someone he expected. I stood there silently, watching the man I had spent 14 months waiting for act like he had another life I knew nothing about. For a few seconds, anger told me to walk over. I wanted to ask who she was. I wanted answers. I wanted him to see me standing there. But then I realized something. A public confrontation would only give him a chance to explain before I even knew the truth. So instead, I stepped back. I lowered the flowers and quietly turned around. As I walked away through the airport, I knew one thing. Julian thought he had arrived home, but he had no idea what was waiting for him. I didn't go home immediately. Instead, I drove around for almost an hour, trying to understand what I had just seen. The flowers I had bought for Julian were still sitting on the passenger seat. The same flowers I had carried with excitement were now a reminder that the person I was waiting for had been hiding something from me. When I finally returned home, everything looked exactly the same. Our pictures were still on the walls. His favorite jacket was still hanging by the door. The coffee mug he used every morning was still sitting in the kitchen cabinet. But somehow, the entire house felt different, because I was looking at it with different eyes. A few hours later, my phone buzzed. It was Julian. Landed safely.
Can't wait to see you tonight.
Miss you. I stared at the message for a long time. A part of me wanted to ask him immediately. Who was she? But another part of me knew I needed answers first. So instead of reacting emotionally, I started looking. And what I found hurt more than the hug itself. I discovered messages between Julian and that woman. They weren't recent conversations. They went back months. Months when I was sitting alone at home, counting down the days until he returned. Months when I was telling my friends how proud I was of my husband. While I was waiting for our future, he was creating a secret connection with someone else. The woman's name was Claire. She wasn't someone he had just met. She was someone who had been part of his life during his time away. I sat there staring at my phone, feeling like the last 14 months had disappeared. All those promises. All those late-night conversations. All those moments when he told me he couldn't wait to come home. Suddenly, I questioned everything. But then I realized something important. The reason I walked away at the airport wasn't because I was weak. It was because, for the first time, I was choosing myself. I didn't need excuses. I needed the truth. Julian came home that evening expecting a completely different reunion. I could tell from the way he opened the door. He was smiling. He was probably expecting me to run toward him, ask about his trip, and pretend that everything was normal. But I wasn't the same woman who had stood at the airport holding flowers. That woman still believed she knew her husband. This woman knew the truth. "Hey," Julian said, placing his bag down. "I missed you." I looked at him quietly. For a moment, he seemed confused. "What's wrong?" I took a breath. "I saw you at the airport." His smile disappeared. "What?" "I was there, Julian. I came to surprise you." The silence that followed told me everything.
His face changed.
Not because he was shocked that I saw him, because he realized I had seen the one thing he never wanted me to see. "Who was she?" I asked. He immediately started explaining. "Hannah, it's not what you think." Those words hurt more than I expected, because they were exactly what people said when they knew they had something to hide. "It wasn't just a hug, Julian," I said calmly. "It's the months of messages. The secrets. The fact that while I was waiting for you to come home, you were building a relationship with someone else." He looked down. For once, he had nothing to say. "I spent 14 months missing you," I continued. "I defended you. I supported you. I told everyone how proud I was of you." My voice stayed steady. "But you came home with a secret I had to discover myself." Julian apologized. He said he made mistakes. He said he never wanted to hurt me. But some things cannot be fixed with apologies. Because the hardest part wasn't losing him. It was realizing I had been holding on to someone who had already let go. I looked at him and said the words I never thought I would say. "I hope you find happiness, Julian." Then I picked up my keys. And I walked away. Not because I stopped loving him, but because I finally started loving myself. The months after leaving Julian were not easy. There were moments when I missed the person I thought he was. I missed the memories. I missed the future I believed we were building. But slowly, I started rebuilding my own life. I focused on myself, my goals, and the things I had forgotten while trying to hold a marriage together alone. Julian eventually understood what he had lost. But by then, I had learned something important. Walking away wasn't about punishing him. It was about respecting myself. The woman who stood at that airport was waiting for someone else to choose her. The woman who walked away finally chose herself. And that changed everything.